Hello, beautiful friends. My name is Susan Shatzer, and I'm excited to be with you here today to share some incredible information that took over my life and changed it almost instantaneously. So, I had just given birth, and my son was 8 months old. I woke up one morning and I had lost the vision in my right eye. Didn't know what was happening. I thought possibly just a little blood vessel had burst and my body needed to absorb the blood that was in my eye or covering my eye or preventing my vision. And miraculously, that ended up not being the case. And for 2 days, it got worse. And as I would turn my head, it would be extremely painful. So I landed in an emergency room for eye doctors. And it just so happened that the ER doctor in the clinic was a neuro ophthalmologist. And he knew once he took a look at everything that was happening, what was going on, and he ordered an MRI. So within a day, I received a phone call from him stating that I had a 51% chance of having multiple sclerosis, MS. And at that time, I had no idea what it was. I have an 8-month-old. We're in a play date. The kids are on swings. And I'm like, wait a minute, let me get a piece of paper so I can write this down. So I'm like, multiple. How do you spell sclerosis? And I had him spell it out for me. And without having any knowledge of the disease, I said, look, let me give you my pharmacy phone number. And I'll have you just call in a prescription and I can have my husband pick it up on his way home from work. And he very calmly said, I'm going to turn this over to your primary care doctor and let her take it from here. I said, okay, that's a great idea. Within an hour, she called me back and said, pack your bags for a week. I need you in the hospital. Don't go to the emergency room. We already have a bed for you, and you'll be receiving IV infusions for an entire week. My world blew up. I'm like, I'm breastfeeding. I have an 8-month-old. My husband works full time. And she said, I'll call you back. So I immediately called my parents. They're 8 states away. They hop in the car and they head down to Florida. I'm in a position where my whole life is falling apart. I'm realizing that I'm in an abusive marriage. My son is 8 months old. I now have a chronic illness with no cure, and it only progresses. My closest family is far, far away. I am by myself. I have no idea what to do. And it was in those moments that I drew on my strength that I had into my heart. And it was a place of just calmness and stillness when it could have been something else. And I realized that everything would have to change. The life, the way I knew it, was no longer there. That a new life was about to be created and I was being born into it. So how did I become an empowerment expert? So it started 55 years ago when my mom's water broke on August 22nd, and I wasn't born until September 8th. So our entire life, it's been a running joke in the family that if anyone's going to be late, it's going to be Susan, because she was late to her birth. Ha, ha, ha. So my whole life, I just called it Susan time. When I would show up, it would be Susan time, and I'd be right on time because it would be my time. Then I started to realize that I kind of like, as I was growing up, like sort of knew things that other people didn't know of. I could hear things that other people couldn't hear, and I could see things that other people couldn't see. And being brought up in the Catholic religion, it was really shunned upon to speak about these things. So it was kind of shut down. And so recently, within the past 10 years, I was tapped on the shoulder by one of my angelic team members and was said, do the math on that. So I was like, oh, okay, let me see what this is. So I went August 2nd, September 8th. That's 18 days. 18 days. So I asked my parents about it. I'm like, did you realize that I was in utero after mom's water broke for 18 days? And they're like, well, we really didn't count it, but yeah, I guess you were. I was like, well, in 1968, what was going on there? And they said, well, the best advice your doctor had for me was to take your mom on a bumpy road every time I got home from work. So that's what they did. They took my mom on a bumpy road trying to get the baby out, which did not work. So then I went into the question, because questions always empower and anything else disempowers you. Where was I? What was I doing? What was happening? And it was as if time had stopped. I could see all the particles in the universe, kind of like a matrix sort of looking scenario, and down drops like a lucid dream. Hello. That's the cat. We're live. This is how it goes. So down drops this video, and I start seeing like myself. And for a lack of a better word, like I was just energy. I wasn't in this form. And there was another being there with me. And for a lack of words, I'm going to consider him God. And I'm sort of having an argument with him. And I can hear myself saying, no, I know the rules up here. Absolutely not. I am not going to do this. There is too much illness, disease, betrayal, heartache, not doing it, tapping it out, hard no go. And God said, you have to go, Susan. It has to be you. And I was like, there's got to be somebody else here more qualified. Like I don't know anyone who argued with God, but there I am. And I said, why does it have to be me? And he opened his arms wide. And within there, he had all these twinkling lights. And I thought, wow, what is that? And he said, those are all the souls waiting for you to get to Earth, for you to help them heal for their soul's evolution, which was why we embody here on planet Earth. So that's what started everything with, okay, I'm here. It's already been predetermined what I'll be doing. I'm in service to humanity. And so that's where the energy empowerment came from. I started to tap into the collective consciousness. I was able to connect with source. I was willing to see when I worked with someone, their lifeline is shown to me east to west, like horizontally. And I'm shown all the way back to like their first choices, the past life of past life of past life, and what's projected for their future. At the same time, your ancestors are shown to me stacked up vertically. So it's what was passed down to that one, that was passed down to that one, that was passed down to that one, and passed down to that one. And so what I discovered was there is a realm of limitation that we all have. Some we brought in with, and some we picked up in this lifetime. So when I took a look at that, I was like, how many of that am I functioning from? And so my mentor had asked me, what if this is what you'd been asking for when I've got diagnosed? And I thought, well, I couldn't say yes or no. I was like, yeah, it's the one thing my husband couldn't handle. He ended up walking out the month before my son turned 2. And he was not a doctor person. He was not a pain taker or a Tylenol taker, aspirin taker. Like he was doctor avoidance. And my situation required a lot of doctor's appointments. It would require a lot of support. I was entering a trial drug study. And in the process, so much growth took place for both of us. He was able to look and see like what was going to work for him or not work for him. And so when my mentor asked me another question, he said, "What's right about this you're not getting?" And I thought, well, that's a great question. So as I would sit and ponder that for a little bit, I got that I could parent the way I truly had wanted to parent. And I couldn't do that with him being in our lives. And so it was just a wonderful gift he had given us to just cut and run, just not continue the lying, not continue the credit card debt, not continue the cheating, like none of that. He was just like, look, I'm out. And so even though so much was projected on us by both our families because of being from the Catholic religion and, where is the sickness and in health? Where is till death do us part? Where is, no divorce situation? And that, we were both wrong for it. And can't you forgive and can't you move on and that kind of a thing. And it was a situation where we both had to choose what worked for us. So within this discovery, I'm incredibly grateful, all of a sudden, incredibly grateful for him that there is nothing I could do that would explain how much and how thankful I was that he just walked out, and it was a breath of fresh air for us. And then when my son graduated high school 18 years later, we were sitting there talking about it, and he says, Mom, I know you're really grateful that Dad left early in life. For me, he goes, I don't think I'd be the man I am today if Dad was in our life. And it was just such a confirmation that that was like the choice. So what am I sharing? I'm sharing questions. So we have limitations. We have polarity in our life, polarity where things are good and bad and right and wrong. And we've been taught to figure it out and make the choice and make a good choice and make the right choice and get the A. And that's not at all how creation takes place. It happens from a neutral standpoint when you're in the present moment. And so without any judgment, I was able to just look at it and say, okay, so what's right about this that I'm not getting? And what showed up was the beauty and the grace of forgiveness, gratitude, and thankfulness, which ends up being one of the highest vibrational frequencies on the emotional chart, just below God's consciousness. So I'd love to share with you some of I think I have 3 of my 7 things to kind of look for to tell if you're in limitation or if you are in neutrality and an expansive point of view. So first, it begins with awareness. Awareness starts when you're willing to take a look at, what? This isn't working for me. There's something here that's just not working. And you're someone who's probably tried self-help books, been on summits, worked with people, been to therapy, a journal. It could be any or all of those. And you're still on the same path. You're still achieving the same things. You're still in the same position. And it may seem as though you slow down, have to go over the speed bump, and then you speed up again and then slow down and have to go over a speed bump. And if that feels like your life, then know that, yes, you are in limitation, that there are things that are happening, which are systems, old programs, old patterns that are taking place that are creating this limitation in your life. And so taking a look at that within you and within what you're creating in a quiet, silent, sort of going in moment, it's okay that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And please know that you've not done anything wrong. And believing in that, when we come down here and we embody, we are experiencing our experiences for our soul's evolution. And so we've already prearranged our experiences with other beings, being our family, our friends, our coaches, our mentors, to give us experiences for our soul's evolution. Some souls just come here for the birthing experience and then they leave. Some souls come for the entire lifetime. And it's not a matter of, you know, how long you're here or how long you stay for, but would you like to have greater ease in your life? And truthfully, if you could have figured out how to have the most abundant, incredibly joyful, fantastic life, don't you think you would have by now? And that was the question that sunk for me. I'm like, absolute. I was like, hands down, absolutely, I would have by now. So I started to take a look at people, places, and things that weren't in alignment with the truth. It was a polar situation. It was me choosing to do things for others based on obligation and responsibility, and it wasn't a choice. And it's what I call a no choice universe. So one of the things to take a look at is loops. Loops are where I live here in Florida in Daytona. So we have the Indy 500. So loops are where you're looping around looking for the checkered flag because you're here to win the race. Am I right? You're here to win the race. Like, you would like to succeed. You would like the relationship. You would like the job. You would like the career. You would like the income. You would like the living location. But you circle around and around. Sometimes you'll go in the inside lane. Sometimes you go to the outside lane. Sometimes you go into the pit and take a break. You get back out still looking for the checkered flag. So then people come to me and are like, look, I've been doing this a long time and I'd like a different possibility. And so what I'm able to do is show them the exit ramp. So it's not about winning the race, finding the checkered flag. It's about getting you off the loop onto the exit ramp so you can choose which direction you'd like to go in next. So how many of you feel that your cup is full? It is. It's full with old systems, old programming, limitations, loops, patterns, all kind of stuff. And then what happens is someone will come in and try to add more to your cup. So a therapist will ask you, well, what did that feel like? What was that like for you? What's an emotion that you can identify? And that cements that event into your body and at a cellular level. And what happens is, with Dr. Emoto, he's from Japan, his research shows that thoughts, feelings, and emotions are energy. And when projected on to water, and we are almost 90%, filled with water, our bodies, that it changes and alters the cellular structure of our cells. And our bodies are designed to duplicate themselves. So like our skin cells are sloughing off and our body's always making new skin cells, that we have liver cells, heart cells, kidney cells, like our body's always reproducing new ones. Well, when you add, and I call it emotional trauma, when you add emotional trauma into the mix, it changes the molecular structure of your cells. And so your cell becomes irregular and your body starts to duplicate the irregularity. And in doing that, the body starts to create irregular cells, AKA cancer, disease, things like that. Your body starts to go awire. And in looking at the human body, I've done a lot of research, there's an element of it to step into where you are having emotional trauma and you have physical trauma. So disease, illness, pathogens, that kind of a thing. The body is going to be self-preservating itself versus dealing with all of your emotional stuff. So the emotional stuff stays stuck in the body, and the body's going to heal the virus, the illness, the bacteria to move on. So the beauty of what I'm sharing is that you have the opportunity to make a choice, whether you're status quo or you are choosing a different possibility. And what might that look like? That would be something personal within you. It's like, is now the time? Is now the time to take a look at the things that are shifting and changing? So I'd love to offer you, before I go, one of my favorite tools that I work with clients with, and that is our stories. So our stories are all from the past. It's our past experiences, is what we witnessed, it's what we saw, it's what we learned, it's what we were taught. These stories sit on our shelves at home or in our body, in our memory, and we revisit them and we relive them and we talk about them. And what that does is that creates greater, and that story becomes stronger and it becomes more relevant and it goes to the top of the book stack. Well, all of those stories are past. None of them are present. Therefore, they are no longer serving you. So in my highest and best, I have clients. It's time to allow those storybooks to get returned to the library because you are paying penalty fees on overdue books. And is that how you'd like to live your life? So we're going to back a BFI truck into your driveway, which is a huge container. And I'm going to have you are just going to, as if you were just gifting money all over. You're going to take your stories and you're going to let them just fly up and land in the truck. Take a deep breath in. On 3, the truck is going to leave and it's going to go to the library. 1, 2, 3. Nice. And we're going to let that librarian archive all of those books so they're no longer available for anyone to take out and start to read and install a program and then have it running in the background. So it's been my joy and absolute gift in gratitude to be here in service to you today. Thank you so much.